Let's start off by translating some of these statements. Here it says x times the sum. Now, one thing to keep in mind with these problems like that, when it says the sum, we know sum means addition. That's plus. Now, they're telling me to multiply with addition. If I were to translate directly, x times the sum, it doesn't make sense to multiply with the sum. This actually implies that you want to add the numbers first before you multiply it. And in order of operations, if you want to show to add something first, you got to use parentheses. So when you see that, if you see like times the sum or times the difference, so multiplying with either a plus sign or a minus sign, that's a clue. It's a clue telling you that you have to put the next part in parentheses. So we're multiplying by the sum, so I'll put that in parentheses. And here we're adding, and keep in mind the plus is going to replace this and sign here. So we're adding two things, the y and the z. So we're adding y with z. X times the sum of y and z is at least, the at least symbol is this one here, and then m. So that's the translation for the first one. Next one, the difference. Difference means subtraction. What are we subtracting? There are two things. Keep in mind, the and is going to be replaced with the minus sign, because it pretty much splits it up. What's before and after is what's going to go before the minus sign and after the minus sign. So we're subtracting two things. Twice x, which means 2 times x, and y. We're subtracting 2 times x and y. So that the and splits it up. And then we have at least, which would be greater than or equal to the letter z. In the next problem, we have twice the difference. Twice means 2 times. And then now we're multiplying with the difference. Similar to the first example, if I were to translate it directly, 2 times the minus sign doesn't make sense. So it's a clue. We got to put that next part in parentheses. So in parentheses, we're subtracting two things, x and y. So x and y are being subtracted together. So x and y. So I like to think of the and as being replaced by the minus sign. It splits it up. It splits the two up. So like the difference of x and y. That's kind of like what I'm picturing in my head. And then at most, which means less than or equal to, and then the letter z. So again, there's a clue. Anytime if it's times the sum or times the difference, you know you got to put that next part in parentheses. Next problem. X increased by. X increased by means we're adding something, so we're adding more. We're going to increase it by the product of y and z. So we're increasing it by product. Product means multiplying. So the product of y and z is less than m. Alright, next problem. X subtracted from. This one you got to be careful with. Always remind yourself, if I'm doing either division or subtraction, the order matters. It makes a difference. When you're adding, it doesn't matter the order. That's called commutative property. 2 plus 3, for example, is the same as 3 plus 2. But subtraction is not commutative, meaning 3 minus 2 is not the same thing as 2 minus 3. Right? The order matters in terms of how you do it. So if we're subtracting from something, that means you got to translate the next part first. So we're going to be taking away or subtracting from this here, the product of y and z. So we actually got to translate that part first. So the product of y and z means y times z. Now we're going to subtract x from that. So I'm going to subtract x. So this one you got to pay close attention to. So one thing I would recommend is if you're subtracting, ask yourself, what is the correct order for this one? So if you're subtracting from something, you put it afterwards. Alright, and then at most would be less than or equal to m. So this is x subtracted from the product of y and z is at most m. Alright, and then the last one, it says the sum of x times y and z. So we're adding two things. X times y and z. So I stress the word and because think of and as like what splits it up before and after the plus sign. So we're adding x times y and, so that goes after the plus sign, z. So this is the sum of x times y and z. And then is greater than or equal to, so greater than or equal to the letter m. And that's it.